Bien, señoras y señores, luego de la pausa para el café, retomamos el hilo de esta jornada y pasamos directamente a...
Let's now move on to this group discussion feedback. The moderator of this is Andrea Camargo, who was with us already. We receive her again on the stage. Thank you.
Bueno, en esta oportunidad es clave que ustedes...
Right now, the key you are participating on the first session, we had lots of input from what is going on in InsurTech issues, what the challenges are. A number of them were identified thanks to the participation of Nicaragua and Paraguay's representatives. I'd like to establish now a conceptual framework for this group discussion that I will explain in more detail once the conceptual framework is explained. What are we going to do today? We would like to gain understanding, far more understanding, on InsurTech as an issue, to especially identify the risks that are out there for the regulator, for the supervisor. What does that mean? It means that the entire discussions that you're going to have on these innovations will be highly targeted at understanding what the impact is at a supervision level, at a market behavior and prudential levels. Once having identified these risks, on session 3 we will be discussing the regulatory tools to confront these risks. This is the purpose of the session we are beginning right here, right now. As I was saying, it is important to establish an initial conceptual framework so we know what we are talking about. Carlos's and Alex's presentations enabled us to have some sort of idea of this, but let me remind you of the InsurTech concept so you have it in mind during the discussions. It's been defined as emerging business model and technologies with the potential to transform the insurance business. We see how important technology is, nourishing the insurance value chain and affecting the entire life cycle of this. It is not limited to a single component or to the life cycle of insurance. It impacts the business as such, the models, the way services are offered, the products that are offered, and whatnot. I will be making some brief description on how InsurTech is relevant for inclusive insurance. This is the focus of our conference today, to focus on this. In having this in mind, I decided to determine the traditional challenges, the hurdles that we have identified in inclusive insurance. And I'll give you a number of examples of how this technology, based on our discussions so far today on InsurTech, confront these risks. So you can have these examples during your discussions, and so that it will be easier for you to identify them. One of the major hurdles in inclusive insurance in some countries is that the traditional insurance industry is sometimes not interested in offering massive insurance to vulnerable populations. Regulators, in connection to the proportionality principle, have promoted the entrance of new players who offer this type of products. So what does InsurTech do? Is there any technology or anything that can be used to confront this problem? Of course there is. If we go back to the basics of insurance, the principle of mutuality, today, based on digital platforms, a promotion is being made on the possibility that every person will apply the principle of mutuality, peer-to-peer. An example, a group here around the tables here, and every person will be contributing some amount. This would be equivalent to the premium. The money collected will be supporting the payment of indemnification. This is the mutuality principle. In this case, the purpose is to unpersonalize it. You can do so without the need of an insurer. This could open up a number of challenges for a supervisory authority, but in other cases, as are the cases with Latin America, there might be an insurer that is supporting the mutuality process supported by a digital platform. We do have an example in Colombia, Sura, one of the biggest insurance companies in the country. They offer this possibility. If you visit their website, you can see that, as a matter of fact, a number of groups can be created for insurance purposes, but the entire risk underwriting process is done by Sura. As I understand, in China there is another case where this happens, but there is no support of the insurer behind. So this is far less personalized. This would be different from a traditional offering side. There is innovation around InsurTech that could help me confront a major problem in inclusive insurance. An interesting example here, Ibiza being a platform that is specifically being created for agricultural insurance under the peer-to-peer perspective based on blockchain. Why? Because there is a serious problem of access to these type of insurance. Who can offer these products? This platform based on peer-to-peer is attempting to find a solution to this issue. Another very relevant issue that is always highlighted by the insurers when you ask them, why don't you design relevant value-added products for clients? Well, I don't know the client, that's what they say. This is my first time working with emerging markets, so I really don't know. I have no statistics. I don't know how to determine prices. I'm clueless about the needs. So based on all these sources of information that Carlos was referring to before, there are tools today, sources that can help the sector design added value products for these populations that are secluded, having no access to traditional insurance. This is crystal clear, and it is really important. If you are abreast of the outlook of microinsurance around the world, a persistent issue is the supply of products that don't really meet a real need that the consumer may have. So it is really interesting to listen to the possibility that the Internet of Things has to offer, telematics and the use of information and social media in order to gather information from the consumer and design products that will be tailored to their needs. By the same token, having the possibility that through this information that is gathered, when I talk about the Internet of Things, let's talk about those hand purses or those bracelets to measure how much sports you engage in. This is connected to the Internet of Things, and it's sending information constantly. Telematics would be like sensors. Let's imagine a sensor that is attached to a car to check the levels of speed and how the person is driving. Bug data, all information coming about from the wearables and those objects and telematics being picked, and information from social media. This is a plethora of information that needs to be processed. This can be done with the contribution of AI and machine learning. So this is why I highlight that the whole issue of having access to data, processing them, and creating algorithms in order to create recommendations or suggestions for products could be pretty interesting for inclusive insurance. Another thing is access to clients. The first use of technology in inclusive insurance has been seen precisely on this component. Facing up to the challenge, you might know that one of the big problems we have is how to ensure collections, payments, and the administrative processes with populations who live isolated, remotely located from the traditional means, such as internet and whatnot. Precisely so, through these tools today, we can have access to this population. A very clear example is the use of digital platforms to offer such services. In Africa, for instance, there is a highly ample development for the use of a mobile microinsurance. Through a mobile application, you'll be able to carry out all the necessary activities to underwrite a contract. I get the proposal, I say yes, I pay the premium, and I get paid a compensation through my e-wallet. So the process has been unpersonalized, so you can reach many more clients who are remotely located, who cannot commute to a place to actually promote those processes. Another challenge is service to clients. We said that there is a serious problem in the knowledge of insurance, that is the relevance of taking out insurance. Financial education and inclusive insurance is paramount. Using technology, it is possible to communicate relevant information. Let's talk about one specific example. In Guatemala, a parametric insurance explained to the client that is sent over via YouTube or WhatsApp. Should the person not have the smartphone, it would be really difficult to make these massive. It's not just the impact at an education level. We also have to find how we compare doubts in Africa. In Pula, an entity that is offering innovative insurance connected to fertilizers. You purchase a fertilizer and this comes in with insurance. This is based on mobile telephony and there's immediate location to your productive activity. And through the mobile you pick information on the person and messages are sent to them to find out how their harvesting is doing. What about the weather forecast and whatnot? So having access to the client in such a way makes it possible to tangibilize an offer that is sometimes very intangible. Another very relevant thing in inclusive services. If I have a nasty experience during my contract life cycle and I didn't get paid my claim, then I don't want to know anything about that in the future. If claims were processed quickly and transparently and in an expedite manner, then this trust would be strengthened. Applications such as the use of drones, satellites, sensors, and meteorological stations for georeferencing will enable these databases to absorb information so that they automatically will say, we reached a parameter and then you have to pay. And that information of having to pay should have to be very much linked to the time of payment. I don't need someone to go to the land and make sure whether a disaster happened on the place of the activity. It's enough for me to have the satellite tell me that the place where the subject is located or their productive activity is located has been devastated by a disaster. This is enough proof of it. And blockchain factors should be included so that the entire process becomes automatic. In smart contracts, we can come down to a highly efficient and transparent claiming process. Added value, I already talked about it. The automatic learning that can result from AI, generating the possibility of communicating relevant information to the client, such as weather forecasts. Having given you this concept, I leave the task in your good hands. So the idea is for you today to work in groups. We have this area here. We have one on the left, the center, and the right. You will be creating 2 groups on each side. All in all, we'll have 6, to here, and to there. There, we'll have groups 5 and 6. Here, we'll have groups 2 and 4, and here, 1 and 3. On group 1, I'd like for you to analyze and discuss with one another how the impact is like when having this technologies to know the client that will help me gather data from them in order to offer added value products at a reasonable price. So I want you to discuss on this innovation and to also identify the advantages and the disadvantages, namely the risks and the challenges as a supervisory agent. Groups 2 and 4 will focus more on access. That is, it's wonderful that through technology platforms we can have all these processes enabled. But what about the risks? What about the challenges I have as a supervisor? And finally, groups 5 and 6 The idea is to talk about the impact on efficient claiming processes, how the use of technologies such as drones, satellites, and drones can, as a matter of fact, render these processes feasible and more expedite, and also identify what the risks are and the challenges on the part of the supervisor. For this discussion, you have 50 minutes allocated. We will be moving around the tables because we know that there are technical issues that will sometimes generate doubts. So Stephanie will be joining us, Carlos will also join us as well, and Alex. And well, I have my own limited knowledge as an attorney. Translating these concepts will be handy and helping you. So please sit around in such a way that a row of chairs, like 10 chairs, all in all, 5 on the one side and 5 on the other end of the table to start discussing. After these 50 minutes have elapsed, a person from each group will give a feedback to the full meeting. In order to help you out, I decided on this diagram. Let's think about the application of the principle of proportionality. It is really key to identify the stakeholders and the roles, as well as the risks, in order to understand what the measures are in regulating. The session here is focusing on this, in identifying the risks, so that we will then see what has been done internationally to confront such problem. And finally, I leave you with this image so that this is food for thought in your discussion. This is an application of the principle of proportionality. It is important to promote inclusive insurance and this type of technology and always think about protecting the consumer. I wish you good luck in your discussions, and you have 50 minutes assigned. Thank you.
50 minutos para...
It's 50 minutes that start running right now for discussion.
when you kiss them. Fever if you live and learn. Fever till you sizzle. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn.
On me dit que nos vies ne valent pas grand-chose, elles passent en un instant comme fanent les roses. On me dit que le temps qui glisse est un salaud, que de nos chagrins il s'en fait des manteaux. Pourtant quelqu'un m'a dit que tu m'aimes encore. C'est quelqu'un qui m'a dit que tu m'aimes encore. Serait-ce possible alors? On dit que le destin se moque bien de nous, qu'il ne nous donne rien et qu'il nous promet tout. Paraît que le bonheur est à portée de main, alors on tend la main et on se retrouve fou. Pourtant quelqu'un m'a dit que tu m'aimes encore. C'est quelqu'un qui m'a dit que tu m'aimes encore. Serait-ce possible alors? Serait-ce possible alors? Mais qui est-ce qui m'a dit que toujours tu m'aimais? Je ne me souviens plus, c'était tard dans la nuit. J'entends encore la voix, mais je ne vois plus les traits. Il vous aime, c'est secret, lui dites pas que je vous l'ai dit. Tu vois, quelqu'un m'a dit que tu m'aimais encore. Me l'a-t-on vraiment dit que tu m'aimais encore? Serait-ce possible alors? On me dit que nos vies ne valent pas grand-chose, elles passent en un instant comme fanent les roses. On me dit que le temps qui glisse est un salaud, que de nos tristesses il s'en fait des manteaux. Pourtant quelqu'un m'a dit que tu m'aimais encore. C'est quelqu'un qui m'a dit que tu m'aimais encore. Serait-ce possible alors?
Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes a Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there, there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame he's ignored, action is his reward. Look out, there goes the Spider-Man. Watch out, Mr. Heisenberg. chill of night at the scene of a crime. Like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward. To him, life is a great big hang-up. Wherever there's a bang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man. I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart that you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin. I tried so not to give in. I said to myself, this affair never gonna swing so well. So why should I try to resist when, baby, I know damn well that I've got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near. In spite of a warning voice, comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you'll never win. Why not use your mentality? Come on, step up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I've got you under my skin. Sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near. In spite of a warning voice, comes in the night and repeats how it screams in my ear. Don't you know, you fool, you'll never win. Why not use your mentality? Wake up, step up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop just before I begin. 'Cause I've got you under my skin, and I love you under my skin. Well, it's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above in your eyes. A fantabulous night to make romance.
Hola, de pronto para que sepan, nos quedan 20 minutos, de manera que ya deberíamos estar hablando de riesgos y retos, ¿ok? Gracias.
And I'm trying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play soft and low. And all the night's magic seems to whisper and hush. And all the soft moonlight seems to shine in your blush. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Well, I wanna make love to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning has come. And I know that the time is just right, and straight into my arms you will run. And when you come, my heart will be waiting to make sure that you're never alone. There and then all my dreams will come true, dear. There and then I will make you my own. Anytime I touch you, you just tremble inside. And I know how much you want me that you can't hide. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Well, I wanna make love to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning has come. And I know that the time is just right, and straight into my arms you will run. And when you come, my heart will be waiting to make sure that you're never alone. There and then all my dreams will come true, dear. There and then I will make you my own. Anytime I touch you, you just tremble inside. And I know how much you want me that you can't hide. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? My love, I just want one more moon dance with you. Yes, I do.
En español también, la prima es la hija de mi...
Puede ser más, bueno, ahí es donde hay que
Cuando anticiparme a una metodología, a veces
Bueno, quedan 5 minutos.
We have 5 minutes left.
Sí, hay un algoritmo extraño en mi reloj.
Well, there is some sort of strange algorithm in the clock, in the counter.
Yo quiero tu opinión, yo escribí esto. No sé si ando bien o ando perdido. Aquí es crear una plataforma que debería poder...
Sí, como un teléfono celular, ¿no? Que recoge los datos y puede efectivamente mandar preguntas al cliente para ver qué tipo de producto quiere, esa reducción de costos, si funciona por administrativos. Un punto también de riesgo es, por ejemplo, si se hace todo el proceso de venta del producto en una plataforma digital, está teniendo de conocimiento de parte del Sí, no, perfecto. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, ahora sí nos queda un minuto, sobre todo es por el beneficio de ustedes para que puedan almorzar a la 1 de la tarde. Bueno, entonces vamos a dar inicio a la retroalimentación de la discusión que ustedes acaban de tener en grupo. Quisiera empezar con el grupo 1. El grupo 1 estaba discutiendo cómo...
Group 1 was discussing how to confront customer knowledge, what product to offer, perhaps offering a product that is not very valuable for the customer at prices that are not realistic. So group 1, can you describe the innovation, then risks, and then the claims? Okay, so we've been discussing about the topic. We started with 2 points of view. One is the concept of microinsurance seen from 2 different sides. One is a microinsurance as a small insurance that covers short periods of time, maybe for a show or an event. And the other is the microinsurance as a social inclusion tool. I think those are 2 different visions and 2 different approaches. So we focused our general discussion on the second approach, that is more oriented towards microinsurance as a social inclusion tool, understanding that the concept of this exercise was more focused on that kind of products. So what about the innovation? What is the innovation about in this concept? Well, it's the possibility of using what you mentioned, the customer's digital identity. Today, if we want to be inclusive or have a product that is inclusive, of course, we need a process for the contract and for the quote that is very simple, very easy to understand. And the more we can shorten this process for customers, the better. And for that, we have to avoid the customer from filling out lots of forms with lots of information. So perhaps we can use the information that is digitally available, but we have to be allowed to use that information. So that is, from the regulatory side, that would be an innovation. I mean, being able to use the information that is already available on the web. About the pros, well, we noted 3 characteristics. One is the possibility of creating products that are more suitable for each customer. That is, having the information and using that information will help us give the customer a more custom-made product, whether given the demographic or social or financial characteristics of the customer, that is more tailor-made to the customer's needs. And this allows us to increase the supply and the offer if disruptive decisions are made in that respect. We can reach more people through more means. So the supply of these products will be developed and will grow. And this also helps us have more objective process. That is an end-to-end process that is more clear and transparent, where the customer, we can talk to the customer with more efficient and friendly vocabulary. What are the risks with these developments? Well, if somebody from my team would like to add anything, please do so. What are the risks? Well, one risk may be that this information may become an exclusion factor. Having information may be a positive or negative thing for the customer. It will depend on how it is used. If it is used as an inclusion tool, that's fine, but it may also happen, as we've heard before, that they become a tool to exclude customers. Another risk is those areas that have a low technological development. In those cases, it's complicated to reach those populations, and it's difficult to create processes. So there would be a geographical exclusion because they don't have access to the technology. So one part of society would be excluded because they don't have this technological development. And then other risks that we detected was, for instance, the money laundering issues, particularly in countries where you can manage lots of people through illegal means. If this process is so agile, so simple, so fast, if you manage a lot of people, then this might lead to an interesting amount of money used for money laundering purposes. And the other risk is the vulnerability of people's rights. I mean, having information and being able to use it, well, some may feel that this is like invasive, that it's an intrusion into their intimacy, their privacy. And this might generate some discomfort in some people. Just entering your ID number somewhere and then all your information coming up, some may feel that this is an invasion in their identity. So that might be a risk. And what about the challenges for the supervisor? The first thing is mitigating contradictions between regulations and technological development. Sometimes it happens that the regulation is asking you to be clearer, more transparent, more user-friendly for the customer, but at the same time, the rules move in the opposite direction. Sometimes the terminology, the technicalities, the conditions for payment and collection that you have to use, they're not updated. They don't follow the new modalities. So on the one hand, they ask you to be transparent, and on the other hand, they don't allow you to use the tools that are already available. So sometimes it feels like a contradiction, so it would be good to bear that in mind. The other thing is more coordination among regulators. That's another challenge. Sometimes, as in the case of bancassurance, for example, or other companies, they are under two different regulators. For example, I'm at the Santander Bank, we are bancassurance, and we have to follow the regulations of the Superintendency for Insurance and the regulations of the Central Bank for the financial part. And sometimes the regulations are not consistent. So you don't know who you should follow. Of course, we have to follow both, but sometimes that is a problem. So perhaps the regulators should work on that. When we speak of microinsurance, there should be a definition from the regulator. I mean, with a very specific regulation. As I said at the beginning, starting with what is microinsurance? What is understood as microinsurance? Is it a social inclusion mechanism, or is it a short period insurance, or for a low amount? What is defined as microinsurance? Here we were discussing that in some countries it's clearer than in others. So it would be good if, as a region, we can have a standard criteria for that. And the other thing is approving payment channels, both for the premiums and also for the claims. If you're speaking of inclusion, we are thinking of people that perhaps are not in the banking system, but they are in a financial system through other means, like the internet payment apps, like the virtual wallets and all that are not necessarily banks, but they are part of a financial system for payments. So approving those new tools. Perhaps this is not applicable to all countries, but we understand that it would be beneficial for the customer and for the companies, not having, to issue checks or things that are very cumbersome for the company and for the policyholder. They end up collecting the claim after some time. So those are the issues. Anybody else would like to add anything in the group? I'm sorry, she's not using the mic. So basically, to summarize, the risks, we identified that it's very good to design products that respond to real customer needs, but this may lead to exclusion. That exclusion is not only not offering the service, but also not having the technology. As I don't have the technology, as I don't have information about the customer, then I don't offer the product to the customer. Something else about the pros. Apart from the product design, you mentioned knowing the customer allows me to know how I communicate some messages about the product. So this has to do with marketing, financial education, knowing what is the best way to communicate with the customer. As to challenges, I'd like to emphasize these contradictions between the regulation and how the market is promoted. And the key aspect is coordination. This is tied to what we said in session 1, that this is coordination not only between the insurers and the superintendency, but also other entities and agencies that participate in the value chain that have access to information. I would like to ask groups 2 and 4, you focused on access, so if you can share your findings. As 2 groups were working on the same topic, I'm going to ask one of the groups to talk about certain questions, and then the other group will continue, so we don't repeat. Who is the spokesperson for group 2? So we had to deal with access, digital platforms. What is innovation about? Well, it's about creating a platform through a mobile phone, for instance, that should be able to identify customer needs and make the connection with an insurance company that is willing to meet that need, setting prices and identifying risks. What are the pros? Well, first, this implies a cost reduction, inclusion, a fast process, and better communication of the information about the insurance. As to risks, we identified that the risks are the customer perhaps cannot understand what he or she is buying, that he cannot quantify the damages, also the vulnerability of the data. And the challenge for the supervisor is that, well, the regulator should be familiar with the product. You cannot audit what you don't know, so the regulator has to be familiar with the product. Also, fully identify all the parties, both the buyer and the purchaser of the insurance, authentication, I would call it. Evaluate whether the inherent risk is well determined, and then making sure, the supervisor should make sure that there's data security and that nobody else, no third parties may manipulate the information. And there's something that is important as well, and that is what refers to the legal protection. The legal protection of the transaction. Well, that would be a risk, perhaps. There should be some legal certainty as to the transaction. Those would be our conclusions. Thank you. Somebody from Group 2 would like to add anything before we move on to Group 4? It's the same topic, actually. Okay, then. So the spokesperson for Group 4 would like to add something to the points that were mentioned? The first thing we identified was that everybody has a mobile phone. Perhaps not everybody has a personal computer, but everybody has a mobile phone. So you can democratize the sales of insurance products. So access means access to millions. And the insurance has to adapt to something that is already a reality that started with millennials, but is now with everybody, and that is e-commerce. And that's a need that not all countries have regulations for that. As to the pros, well, sometimes this can be connected with innovation. We see this democratization, social inclusion, as Group 1 said. Costs are lower, or it tends to reduce costs, although in some countries it's still a disadvantage. And I can tell you the disadvantage. In many countries, they use the distribution channel as something that increases product costs. Mobile phone company asks for commissions for those sales. So this prevents these channels from being used. So the idea with the pros is to bridge this gap between what can be insured and what is already insured, increasing sales and reaching people that we could not reach in the past, but with a direct connection through an insurance broker or directly with an insurance company. Processes are simplified for all the user experience with the digital platforms because the experience is easier. You can do not only the contract, but also the claim payment. And the expert in our group, Janine, was explaining that there's machine learning that also accelerates all the processes. And as a result, the user experience is better and is more related to the insurance company. This is adapted to the new generations. It becomes an element to break down with the barriers. And then as to the risks, the cross-selling may become a reality. That is, trying to sell different products at the same moment. Also, the existence of fraud, cross-border sales. In Group 4, none of the countries have this foreign sales approved, but the channel may appear. And not knowing who you are paying to and who you are giving the information to, that is a risk. And then as to the challenges for regulators, we have to start creating new standards for the contracts, apparently, where we can make sure that there's minimum standards of knowledge and sufficient channels for customer service, because perhaps we no longer have this human connection with the customer, and perhaps more demands and more transparency with the data and with e-collection, and knowing the new players in the market. Perhaps one of many new InsurTech companies can appear that they don't even have a local office. So e-commerce, allows any company from any country doing transactions in Argentina. So we will need perhaps some record or some way of organizing that. That's basically it. Perfect. So it's clear that it is an advantage having these transactional platforms that are digital, that facilitate all these processes. We see that they can apply in many stages of the insurance contract, upon the sale, for communicating information, to facilitate the premiums and the payments and the collections method, so many functions. We see that a pro that is common to all innovations in InsurTech is cost reduction, administrative cost reduction. But as you said, sometimes this may be deceitful because perhaps the commissions may be too high. And something that is related to another risk that was not mentioned is that by integrating other technical service providers or technological service providers in this scheme, I'm integrating somebody that perhaps is not supervised. I'll give you an example. In Zimbabwe, through a product of microinsurance, they had insured 1 million people in less than a year, a record time. But there was a problem in the contracts and in the commissions that were offered to one of the service providers, and this service provider just disappeared, and the people no longer had the technical support for the product. So it's important to verify all the entities that participate in the process and how the contracts that support this assistance are supervised. So costs, it democratizes, it allows me to have more access to other customers that I had never reached. And then about experience, this is very important. We spoke of the trust in inclusive insurance. It's important to have my insurance company just a key strike away. I mean, that allows me to feel closer and have a more positive experience. But at the same time, the experience is less personal. So we have the risk of, am I informing everything I should? Is this language the proper one? All that is related to risks as well. And something else I would like to mention about risk is the understanding. We speak of financial education, and we think these tools are very simple, but sometimes people receive information in languages they don't speak. Perhaps a very nice video that is shared over the phone, but most of the population speaks a different language, perhaps. So these are things to be identified when we speak of risks. And one of the big challenges that I see that are common for groups 2 and 4 is the knowledge of the supervisor. This has technical components, big innovations, and it includes other entities that are not supervised by the Superintendency of Insurance or whoever the supervisor is. So it is a challenge for me to understand these new dynamics and being able to create a dialogue with all the parties. So it's a challenge. I have to understand, and I have to make sure there's a dialogue with the parties that are involved in all these processes. So finally, we're running short of time. Group 5 and 6 that speak about the claims process. So the representative from group
de reclamos.
Group 3, was it?
Bueno, para el tema de reclamos, lo que
for the claims, the innovation in this aspect covers 2 aspects. First, when you inform that there's a claim that a loss has happened, and also for the payment of that claim. And then that may be done through satellite information, sensors, technological apps, mobile phones, drones. So this is to evidence that a claim has happened. Through satellites, we can see if there has been a fire, for example. Somebody mentioned here an example of a situation with an insurance company where through the satellite, it was proven that the event had happened before the policy existed, so it was very useful. And for paying the claims through wire transfers to make the payment more efficient and more rapid, and not necessarily issuing a check, which can take a few days for all the processes within the insurance company. And in those cases where they don't have a bank account, this may be done through other kinds of transfers. For example, in Panama, we have transfers that are done in supermarkets. For example, I deposit an amount of money with the supermarket, and the same supermarket chain, somebody may go to another branch of the supermarket and withdraw the money. So this might be used in those remote areas where these supermarkets are present, but there's no bank. Those would be some general ideas about innovation. Then the pros, that would be reduction of the times. It would be easier when the claim is assessed. It's easier perhaps to communicate this to the company through a WhatsApp. I've just had an accident. These are the pictures of my car and all that. Or it might also be an app where you can say, I had this event in my home, and I just check all the check boxes in a form through my phone, and then the insurance company will answer whether I am covered or not. Also, the reduction of fraud, as in the case of this fire I mentioned. In that case, fraud was reduced through the use of the satellite information. The customer also may have a higher level of satisfaction because his claim will be responded in a shorter period of time. The insurance company can reduce administrative expenses in every sense. The expenses of the adjusters that have to make the inspections with drones and satellite information, etc., that might be cheaper. As to risks, well, there are several, but to summarize, we may mention that the information that may be obtained from all these mechanisms, from sensors, for instance, that can be used in cars, or medical information, that may be used perhaps against policyholders when they want to underwrite a new policy.
Whether for complete rejection or for increasing the fees charged to them. That is, it could be used in a negative manner, backfiring against the policyholders. Another risk is that information based on which the insurer is based on is not that veridical, maybe information from satellites or whatnot. The company should have control or have a say on that information, at least on parametric adjustments. So that we never get to the threshold just because something may have been tampered with. Just to give you an example, as to money laundering prevention, when there is less information in the file, when the supervisor verifies those files, maybe the insurance company is making payments of non-real claims that are filed, and this could be helping money laundering. For the regulator, modifying the standard, the regulation, in order to open up the path for these new technologies. Also, supervision coming to play here. It might be both positive or negative, since there will be less information in the file of the claim, then the regulator should adjust to this. In my country, in Panama, every detail is to be there in that claim file, and if that is not the case, then the supervisor should adapt to that, as well as the training provided to the supervisor and coordinating with the supervisory bodies. These satellites for parametric values would be a different governmental agency that should be making sure whether there was a gust of wind of given speed, or whether there was an X amount of rainfall. This won't be under the scope of the insurance superintendency, so we should be more connected. Thank you. The group that was in charge of claims, should you comment on anything? Do you want to share any risks or challenges that you may have identified? Well, this is our group, groups 5 and 6. We've been more than enough in order to have worked twice as much, so this has been really a remarkable achievement. We have worked on what is shown on the slide, drones, remote detection. This is used not just for claims, but also in the entire value chain. We've seen that there are some advantages to this and some aspects that should have to be analyzed. In telematics, the same is true, and for blockchain, same thing as well. So with regard to question 1, what is innovation all about? The first few innovations are more than eloquent. Drones, satellites are part of the insurance value chain, and as to blockchain, well, innovation is some sort of electronic account books where every block is connected with other blocks so that you respect safety and confidentiality thereof. And there are a number of nodes verifying in a decentralized manner the exchange of information, in this case financial transactions. As to pros or advantages, a lot has been stated. We have identified not just for claims, but also for risk prevention, that the information on the part of the insurer through drones and satellites should be used in order to inform the policyholder on environmental problems, haze, rainfall, storms, and for management, same is true. There is veridical, updated information that is available that could be used to make the payment of the claim, as well as to make sure that there is less fraud out there. All this has an impact in improving the customer's experience and in greater turnaround time to pay claims. Everything is more scientifically based and everything can be processed quicker. In terms of risks, as has been stated before, drones or satellites may not provide adequate information. This is a risk that could happen as well. There is an evident risk of data protection. This is more generalized in terms of all the innovations we've seen in the last few days. And rather than a risk, let me ask, what about brokers or intermediaries? With this type of innovation, there is far more direct contact with clients. Insurance companies can manage everything based on the use of technology, but what about brokers and middlemen that we have right now? Privacy of data. In this case, the insurance company should know through satellites where their policyholders are, what they are doing at every step of the way. So this is a big question. Where is this information going to end up? Who is going to control it? And finally, there is a risk of exclusion, where all this information is used to segment the market in smaller segments, and for the company to first see that there is a group of people, policyholders, that are not profitable, therefore they should increase the premiums. This is a risk that we do see out there, and we'd like to see how the whole thing evolves. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you short, but otherwise we will skip lunch, and we don't want to create a cause of hunger here. So thank you. Before we close, so you can have lunch and enjoy it, I'd like to highlight on 2 points. First, you did realize how important it is to discuss on innovation. It is really key to understand what we are facing. It is impossible to regulate something that I don't know. Every regulation has to be based on evidence, and I therefore need to let things happen in order to see what the risks are and understand them. I'd also like to highlight coordination, how it is cross-sectional in all the discussions, how we go back to this, it being a big issue, not just for the insurance supervision, but also for other agencies. And something that goes hand in hand with this, the perimeter of supervision, the one I have right now, could be expanded. So this is food for thought that will be really relevant for the next session. What measures were identified in confronting the risks that you have identified in a very good manner today?
Muchísimas gracias, final entonces, para este trabajo de grupo.
I'd like to thank this task force where you discussed and then you gave your feedback for the plenary. Thank you, Andrea Camargo. As has been announced by Andrea, you are all invited to share lunch on the first floor. It's only 1 hour assigned, so at 2 p.m. we will be reconvening here, and participants are reminded to answer the assessment forms, the evaluation forms on your binders. It's very relevant for the organizers to get to know your opinion. So please fill them out. And again, you're all invited for lunch on the first floor. Thank you.